Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining the Community Forum for Ward 4 of the AC Transit District. My name is John Mined, and I'm Campaign Director with the East Bay Transit Riders Union. As you probably know, AC Transit, the local government that controls the AC Transit bus system, is democratically controlled by an elected board of directors. And one of the wards that elects the board of directors, the ward is currently vacant, formerly Mark Williams, who resigned recently. This coming week, AC Transit Board will interview and potentially appoint someone to fill the vacancy. This is a ward that covers large parts of South San Leandro, all of the Eden area, so Ashland, Cherryland, San Lorenzo, I believe that is, large chunks of Hayward and Castro Valley. This is a temporary appointment. It will be, the seat was already going to be up for election this November 8th, so there will be a full election for the position then. This is an opportunity for the candidates for board appointment to hear questions and hear and answer questions from the riding community, and otherwise introduce themselves to the community. This event is co-sponsored by the East Bay Transit Riders Union, Seamless Bay Area, Genesis, a Gamaliel Project, and Transform. So I want to make sure all the sponsors of this group have a chance to describe themselves. So could I go first to Carol?
Okay, Genesis of Oakland is a nonprofit that's serving many generations for sponsoring free transit for youth, getting the police out of the schools, and I'm part of the Disability Transit Justice Task Force, which of course includes seniors as well. So it's an organization I'm very proud of. It's a interfaith group, primarily supported by churches.
Thank you. And Adina for Seamless?
Yes, Seamless Bay Area is a nonprofit focusing on reaching a rider-friendly, equitable, affordable, convenient, well-connected public transportation system for the Bay Area, and we're happy to be hosting this forum.
Thank you, Adina. The East Bay Transit Riders Union is a grassroots group of transit riders in the East Bay that advocate for more, better, and more equitable bus service. And I believe our sponsor from Transform was not able to make it, but I will just briefly give their mission. Transform is a nonprofit that promotes walkable communities with excellent transportation choices to connect people of all incomes to opportunity, make California affordable, and help solve our climate crisis. So once again, there will be, the primary thing we'll be doing in this forum is posing questions to all the candidates who are in the order I see on the screen: Dr. Ann Maris, Dave Sorrell, and Brescia Spriggs. There are a couple other candidates who we were not able to contact or were not able to join. We will have 2-minute introduction, 2-minute candidate opening statements, followed by questions. Some of the questions were developed in collaboration among our co-sponsors, but we will also be taking questions from the audience. So once again, you see the Q&A function below you, all you attendees. So feel free to use that function to pose questions. Our question policy is that we are ideally looking for questions that can be posed to all three of the candidates. We are looking for things that are questions as opposed to not a question, more of a comment. If we got a lot of questions, it is very likely that we will not have time to get through them all, so we may edit and combine similar questions. And we will not be able to do questions that are very clearly for or against individual candidates. Because some of our sponsors may not support or oppose candidates. Also, if you were not able to use the Q&A function, we also sent out, along with, as the blog post that introduced this event had a link to a Google form that may conceivably be a little more accessible than the Zoom Q&A function, I'm not sure, but we are also monitoring the Google form that went out, and I can put the link up to that as well, if that is easier for you. And as I think you've seen when you joined, this event is being recorded. It may be available to people who request it later. So I will now turn it over, unless I've forgotten anything, I will now turn it over to our moderator, Carol Taylor, to get the candidates going.
Hi, how do you do? So we're doing the 2-minute introductions. I'm going to go in alphabetical order for this. So, Anne, would you like to start?
Okay, sure. Thanks. Alphabetical by first name. All right, let's see. So let's see. Sorry. Okay. I wrote my comments, so I won't mess up. Okay. Usually I don't write it, but I did. So hello, and thanks for providing the forum today for me to hear from and talk with concerned people. I look forward to what I'll learn today. One of the causes I work for is the ability of the community to interface in a genuine way with the bureaucratic process. And this community-led town hall itself is a great example of that. I'm grateful to be here, and I recognize the effort it takes for volunteers to arrange this type of community work. My name is Dr. Ann E. Maris. I'm a resident in the unincorporated Alameda County area of AC Transit Ward 4. Unincorporated county comprises the majority of Ward 4, along with portions of the cities of San Leandro and Hayward. Unincorporated Alameda County residents have different concerns than city residents because we lack a layer of elected representation, and decisions are often made for us by people who don't clearly understand the demographics, needs, and historical dynamics. My focus as an AC Transit director would be on the people, both the riders and the employees. The canceled 238 freeway bypass has played a big role in my development. The 238 freeway was supposed to be built cutting through neighborhoods and the foothills from Union City to Castro Valley. In 1976, my family started renting one of the homes that the state took for the 238 freeway. Our home has an AC Transit bus stop in the front yard. The freeway was finally canceled in 2010, but our neighborhoods are still left devastated. And through that damage and the need to rebuild, I have learned a lot. This is the first time I've applied for any sort of public board or committee, but I am currently a volunteer on the board of 2 local nonprofits, the Friends of San Lorenzo Creek, which focuses on the largest creek in urban unincorporated Alameda County, and the Eden Community Land Trust, which focuses on affordable housing in unincorporated Alameda County. I understand our community dynamics and demographics and how to build relationships with other jurisdictions and agencies. I believe I would be a good AC Transit director because I can see both sides of a situation. It's true that I hold a philosophical degree in biochemistry and molecular biology, but nothing was handed to me. I worked hard.
Sorry, ma'am, that's time.
Okay, I only have 1 sentence left.
We're at 2 minutes, everybody. We'll get 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Dave?
Thank you, Carol. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity and the time and space to talk about AC Transit service in our neck of the woods, especially in central Alameda County. My name is David Sorrell. My daytime job is that I'm the transportation administrator for UC Berkeley, overseeing our transit program for basically a small city within a city. And having lived here in the Eden area for the last 4.5 years, I've come with 15 years of transportation and local government experience, understanding the complexities about living within an unincorporated area in which our districts are kind of weird, considering that we are not well represented when it comes to offering localized programs. But transit is especially one of these items that's been very passionate to me. Growing up in Chicago as a young kid, I was one of these transit nerds that took the bus everywhere. I followed AC Transit as part of my organizational development and leadership and figuring out what makes transit agencies tick and understanding what the riders need. I've been a planner for many years. Been operating in different forms in speaking up for the voices of many of our community, whether it be minorities, students, or even choice riders for that matter. Over the last 3 years, we've seen kind of a decimated transit service provided by COVID, and I believe that I can be able to provide the leadership and guidance necessary. I'm involved in many transit organizations, nonprofits, including being president of the chapter of the Northern California Association for Commuter Transportation. I look forward to hearing your questions throughout this afternoon, and please do reach out if you have any questions or concerns. I do want to also argue on behalf of the fact that we do live in some a good opportunity for transit growth and being able to make sure that we can be able to go further, farther, faster together. Thank you.
That's time. Thank you.
Thank you. Asana Barisha?
Hi. First of all, I want to thank the organizers for putting this together. This is a wonderful forum. And I'm Barisha Spriggs. I live in unincorporated Ashland, and I've been there for 28 years. It's a part of Ward 4. I raised my daughter here. Since our unincorporated communities have no city level of government services, in which it's 140,000 of us, it's the majority of Ward 4. I found out that we're constantly being underserved. I live right on East 14th Street, and so I see a lot of things going on here. There's a lot of minorities here. There's a lot of homeless here. There's a lot of poverty here. And I became a social justice activist because I did find that we're severely underserved here. I'm a part of many community groups, the Eden Area Livability Initiative Governance Leadership Team, My Eden Voice, and so many others, not just in Ward 4, but around the Bay Area. Also, I'm a member of DSA. I'm a member of a lot of different groups. I'm chair of Southern Alameda County Progressive Dems. I'm also a daily rider of AC Transit. So I ride along every day daily with working class families, seniors, and people with disabilities who rely on AC Transit for a main source of transportation. I do not own a car and haven't had one for many years. I am also the catalyst for the Ashland East 14th corridor improvement projects. That's the phase 2 of the project. This was recently completed, making our community safer and more accessible for bus riders, pedestrians, bike riders, and motorists. I am also an elected member of the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee and have a wide variety of experience passing various kinds of policies, progressive policies.
Thank you, ma'am. That's time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So for our first question, John has used a random generator to decide how the order of questions shall go. So for this first question, we'll do David, then Ann, and then Barisha. And the question is, AC Transit is right now running at under 85% of capacity. And it was already underserving much of the population because of the cuts that have been made over the decades. So how would you go about restoring service to pre-pandemic levels, and how would you expand in the future?
I should go first, correct, Carol? All right,
Yes.
wonderful. So the one thing that that I've noticed over the last few years is that, when voters approved measure, I believe that was measure B, it was supposed to gather additional service levels for the entire, for at least the Alameda side of the district. And because of the lack of driver capability, driver availability, we've seen kind of these objectives kind of fizzle, at least in terms of building back service, during AC Go, and with the latest service change, which was in 2017 and in 2018, that's not been fully realized. You combine that with COVID, and you end up with reductions of service levels that become critically decimated to especially folks in Castro Valley, in San Lorenzo, and areas that are not necessarily served by the trunk lines along 14th and on Hesperian. The way that we really should approach this is ensuring that we have the driver capability to actually not only go above 85% of service levels, but to actually go beyond that, whether it be, looking at planning and seeing what route efficiencies can be made, the reestablishment of peak commuter service for those that need it, but most importantly, making sure that there is a case for our planners and to have the data to support connecting the dots when it comes to trip generators, where you're going, how fast do you need to be there, and how frequent do you need to be there. Weekend service is important. How can you be able to go between point A and point B? But if your bus operates every 45 minutes, like the 93 does on the weekdays, it's going to be really impossible to do it when you're on a crosstown route trying to connect to a station, as well as trying to make sure that the trips that are currently on the road are not being imposed or at least blocked by drivers. And we want to be able to create that ecosystem where you are a pedestrian.
That is time. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Steve. Anne.
Hi. So again, I'm really concerned with community here, and I've talked to people and asked them what's important to them about the bus service here. How are we going to be able to build ridership back up post-pandemic? And I don't want to claim that I have all the solutions, but I want to just explain how great I am at research and at listening, and that I've examined the budgets and I see where the expenses are, I see where the revenue is, but that really doesn't answer the questions. We have to look at ground level solutions by talking to riders. If riders aren't coming back after the pandemic, why aren't they coming back? What do they need? So, to summarize what I hear is they want to feel safe. They need the buses to be reliable. During the pandemic, a lot of times, there were shortages and people were just left. We couldn't count on having a bus. We need to get there quickly. So I think also, just like in community resilience, we have to use the pandemic as an example of how to be more prepared next time it hits. And how to be more prepared next time, I think, is with really enhancing driver training, with cross training, and I'm really big on a lot of training so that people feel confident and can step in when they're needed, like when people call out sick too much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And Barisha?
So service restoration, we need to bring it up to pre-pandemic levels and also actually create greater service for the community. I see rearranging our priorities and getting a variety of sources of funding from federal, state, and regional levels to reprioritize transportation and for our communities. I also see possibly a progressive tax. I want to eventually make sure that actually our fares are free for AC Transit, and it requires a rethinking of funding. I also want to make sure that we have enough staff that's employed to actually implement all of the service that we need. And so I'm looking forward to going forward with that process with the help of the rider, listening to riders and listening to the employees and the board.
Oh, you're muted, Carol.
Yeah, Carol, you're
I'm
muted.
sorry. Thank you. I'm so sorry. So thank you all three very much. For the second question, our order is going to be Barisha, and then Ann, and then Dave. And the second question is, what do you see AC Transit needing to accomplish to be accessible for people with these? And what would you do about this? So, Barisha?
I'm sorry, my internet was going out a little bit. Can we repeat one more time just to make sure I heard it correctly?
Ooh. Carol appears to be freezing to me a bit too.
Oh,
Go ahead, Carol.
okay, so I'll go ahead and turn off my camera. Let's see. So the question is, what do you see the AC Transit needing to do to be more accessible to people with disabilities? And how would you accomplish?
I'm gonna turn off my video and see if that helps. That's cool. Okay. So I would like to have more levels of platforms. I see some in San Francisco where they're kind of like raised, and they meet when the disability piece comes out of the machinery of the comes out and lays flat. It's better for people that are in wheelchairs, for example. Also, I would like to actually interface more with probably the accessibility committee with the disabled people to see what their input would be. And I would listen to that and provide based on what the input that they give me.
Very good. Okay, Ann?
Sure, thanks for the question. I myself am disabled. I have an autoimmune disease that causes chronic pain, which is why I'm a community volunteer now and not in my research career. And so I have a lot of opinions as far as accessibility goes. And why don't people ride the bus? You know, particularly in my neighborhood, we have a lot of seniors, a really high percentage of seniors, really high percentage of disabled. A lot of times disabled goes along with low income. So the key to serving these populations is really more community integration. So, because what happens is like, I mean, okay, an obvious answer is seats at the bus stops. The bus stops should have seats. If you're old, if you're in pain, it's really difficult to stand at a bus stop, particularly a bus stop that's in the blazing hot sun. So that's another issue. But that providing a seat is not only a benefit to the AC Transit riders, it's a benefit to the community, because we have a lot of people walking that might need to take a break on a seat. So I mean, so that's the most obvious answer, is just to put in more seats. At the bus stop at my house, I couldn't get AC Transit to install a bench. I put a bench in there. And I can't tell you how many people thank me for that bench and how proud I am of having the best bus stop in my neighborhood. So, yeah, so that's about it, really. I'm satisfied.
Very nice. So Dave?
Yes. So, I mean, Anne brings up a good point about shelters, ensuring that both the wayfinding as well as the benches themselves provide a bit of a refuge to our riders, especially if you're waiting for a bus. I'm right outside of Bayfair Mall, and you have service that is operating decently, not bad for a suburb, but at the same time, there's more that needs to be done. And I think that, working with the county, working with, the cities of Hayward and San Leandro, working with ACTC, working with Bike East Bay, to help design and actually formulate the infrastructure to help support, the user experience, especially for a disabled community. Mobility problems notwithstanding, that needs to be addressed as well. I can find us, working with the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and they meet, rather infrequently, but what they come out of is, many of the changes that happens inside the bus as well as outside of the bus, especially when you wait. And I think that, providing safety, providing lighting, providing that opportunity, to make our shelters, even the buses that you're on, a welcoming place for every member of the community. And we talk about hostile infrastructure when it comes to the houseless, and we need to provide a solution that's going to be welcoming for all and to leave no person behind. And then lastly, are we dealing with, and of course I wrote notes and I can't even read my own notes, improving paratransit for those that seriously that needs to get around but can't necessarily do it on public transit. And I think that paratransit service is something that needs to be drastically improved when it comes to service delivery, not only to our fixed route, but also in a grand scheme of things in connecting folks to different destinations, whether it be for a doctor's appointment or a trip to Target.
That would be time. Thank you.
Ah, terrific. Thank you very much. I'm going to take. You can hear my question better. So in this case, first, and then Barisha, and then Dave. And so the question is, knowing how many different kinds of demands and constraints you will feel from different quarters, how do you think an ACT director should balance different considerations? So Anne?
Okay, to balance considerations. So of course, there's always a balancing of considerations. So I always kind of go back, I always say that why I'm good at seeing both sides of a situation is has in part to do with my training as a biochemist. So when you have a philosophical degree, what it means is that you're able to look at both sides of the situation and think about it. And one thing that I'm particularly good at is having empathy toward what I'm hearing from people. And I think it's important to just stay people focused and think about the network of humans that form this organization. And I want to say the larger organization that includes the community. So more community partnerships, partnerships with affordable housing.
That's time for the question. It's
okay. All right. Thanks.
Oops, Barisha?
I think it's about what are the sub priorities that we have based on what we hear from the community, what the board people are saying, the input from the board meetings, and to use time management and to use those goals as to which would be a priority at a certain time. And to keep our movement going, to get to change our system and transform it into the best system that we can possibly have. So that's what I see it as.
Okay, great, thank you. And now, let's see, Dave?
Yes, ma'am. I think just from the top, we should address the notion that no idea should be a bad one. Being a planner, having worked with planners, you are only as good as the board that you have. And that if you have a board that supports any and all ideas, we should empower our staff, both operations and planning, to address kind of the necessities that the drivers have to commit through, but also what the planners think could actually happen. And then it also translates to being a human-focused, writer-focused, thinking locally, acting regionally, but making sure that the two meet. And that process can actually be done. Whether it be through incrementalism or just doing a wholesale change. We just have to think further together, because I think at this point, we have to be empathetic to our communities, but we also have to support our staff, all staff, to make sure that what we can think of can actually be put on the road, and we should actually have a focused design. Thank you.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. So I have a 60-second question from the audience, and that is, which AC routes do you use, and for what kinds of trips?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
That is, which AC transit bus routes do you use, and for what kinds of trips? And starting with Dave.
Sure thing. Okay, so this is going to be a two-part question. So in Berkeley, I rely on the 6 and the 51B and the 52, many of the routes that my students take. Here in the Eden area, I'm a frequent user of the 10, the 40, and the 93, just to run through trips to and from the doctor's office, to run to Target, to even run to downtown San Leandro, as well as downtown Hayward. I also use it to get to BART, and I also use it to get to Amtrak, knowing that, we talk about first mile, last mile connections to BART, so that we can get to jobs. So I actually use AC Transit to get to BART, or maybe even Amtrak, to go to where I need to go for meetings and to, events where I want to be. I don't like driving, bottom line.
Okay. And Barisha?
So the 10 is right in front of my home. That's the main one I use to go either south to any or to go to south to different events, and also to go to BART. Going the opposite way to Bayfair, to transition to usually BART or another bus. Usually it's BART though. I also use the 28 to get to Castro Valley. We have a lot of meetings at Castro Valley. Sometimes the Alameda County Board of Supervisors and Incorporated Services meeting at the Castro Valley. I also take from Bayfair BART, I take the 92 to get to the San Lorenzo Library. We have a lot of meetings. The unincorporated services meetings are there sometimes too, to get to the San Lorenzo Library there. I take those are, I think those are my main ones, but I do take others because
ma'am, that is time.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Anne?
Well, the bus I take the most is the one out my front door. It's now called the 93. And like Marisha said, usually what we have to do here is take the bus to BART. We don't have a Trans Bay bus here. We don't have a fast bus that we can just grab. So we're kind of forced to go bus to BART. I moved out kind of young when I was 15 due to family problems. I walked out the door, it was a rainy day, and I caught the bus. I took the AC Transit to the Greyhound station and then a 4-hour trip to my next home. You know, nowadays you can't do that. We don't have that easy connection. So anyway, so one of the things I hope that AC Transit is focused on is, you know, making it easier to get on the bus and go somewhere, making the connection. So that's where I really appreciate the reports by Seamless. Thanks.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Our next question, and this will be in the order of Anne, Dave, and then Barisha. How would you work with the labor unions that are part of AC Transit, and how would you resolve issues for the district? And so first is Anne.
Yeah, hi. So, well, most of my experience with labor unions comes from being in the a teacher or being in healthcare. And so for those disputes, I was generally on the side of the employee where I thought it was pretty reasonable. And so the question, and companies, I think they want to, I mean, I like to think that they want to be reasonable, but it comes to, you know, fiscal responsibility and what can you give the employees? I haven't been personally involved in those negotiations, but one of the things that I would think of, so I would seek technical help to look at both sides. One of the things I would think of is maybe being able to provide some kind of perks that are important to the workers, that like maybe something, you know, more company get-togethers, more retreats, trainings that are interesting, more health sort of gatherings that focus on mental and physical health for the employees. So
That's time, ma'am.
okay, thanks.
Okay, so Dave.
Yes, ma'am. So I think that we have to take a very holistic look at the existing work roles that we have that would, you know, kind of dictate how we operate service in the district at large. But when you look at some of the, you know, important components, I think that, you know, getting the morale back with our drivers, you know, instilling hazard pay, because we've kind of been still in this perpetual level of emergency over the last 770 days. And we need to actually be very cognizant of that. But also look at ways that we can recruit, maintain, retain employees and not lose them to attrition. You know, and of course, you know, we tend to look at things very, you know, black and white, but at the same time, we really should take it, you know, and actually be a good listener and a good mediator when it comes to some of the complaints that might have been raised with some of our folks that are driving and operations staff and things like that. So we should.
We're at time.
Thank you very much. So Barisha?
Yes, first of all, I'm a strong supporter of unions. I worked for many years on SEIU 1001 independent expenditure campaigns. I believe that makes a stronger workforce when the employees are taken care of. Our AC Transit workers are essential workers, just like other essential workers, and they deserve hazard pay. They deserve other protections that are widely known in other industries. For example, I already approved a hazard pay for grocery workers through this Alameda County Democratic Central Committee. We endorse that. So I would be, of course, supporting hazard pay for AC Transit. I would be supporting making sure they get their lunches, because I've heard some of them don't get really get their lunches even though they're allotted to. If it's traffic, for example, I was coming.
Thank you, ma'am. That's time.
Okay, thank you very much. So my next question, and the next order will be Barisha, and then Anne, and then Dave. So my question is about accessibility. Will you commit to raising the newly built but inadequate bus pads along Telegraph? The tempo platforms are much easier and faster to use. So Barisha?
So repeat the question one more time, I'm sorry.
Oh, sure, you bet. So this is about accessibility. Will you commit to raising the newly built but inadequate bus pads along Telegraph? The tempo platforms are much easier and faster to use.
Oh, yes, of course. That's something that I want for the entire, yeah, I would like to do that. I would like to raise all those platforms. That's one of my goals, you know, as part of, I want to bring BRT all the way through the corridor, and I want to have it raised so that it's, you know, that it's good for everybody. That's something that I'm definitely interested in doing. So yes, for sure. I want to bring and I want to bring BRT all down, you know, all through the corridor south, so that we can have those connections. We can save our environment, we can have faster service, and I can do it. So yeah, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. So Anne?
So anything that increases accessibility, I would be for, particularly if it's, it says in the question, an example of poorly spent funds. So that's disturbing to me. And I'm not really familiar with that, so I can't give a lot of answers. There should be accessibility standards, there's state requirements, there's federal requirements. I think it's really important. I mean, people who have disabilities have such trouble functioning anyway that I wouldn't want to put any barriers or increase any barriers to their using buses. The bus system really should be the heart of community, and right now when we're building so much more housing, it's so important that the buses are more integrated with all the housing in the community. And I'm
Thank you, ma'am.
really scared.
That's time.
All right, thanks.
So I think honestly, the short answer is a resounding yes. You know, we need to actually improve on the bus stops along Telegraph. I want to go a step further in, you know, make sure that our bus stop standards are normalized throughout the entire region, not just along Telegraph. I'll go a step further as well as empower our staff that are currently working on rapid corridors to expand on that, to address a lot of the accessibility problems with the stops as it stands now, but also in the future, because it's going to be critical that, you know, you're only as effective as the buses that you have, but also the bus stops that you're using, and empower the staff to actually go further than that, because yes, we want to make sure that we connect our streets. We got to connect our people as well. And if we're able to do that either through BRT or rapid corridors, Rapid 6, Rapid 72, I'm all for it. And I will help to make sure that we kind of address those needs.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you. So now I'd like to do a little something different, which would be a 30-second question, which is, do you approve of retroactive hazard pay for the employees? And for this order, it'll be Dave, and then Anne, and then Barisha.
I think I can be able to answer in so many words that leads to yes. You know, knowing that we do have kind of a fiscal cliff that we have to address, you know, fiscal cliff in 2 years, I think that we owe it to ourselves, our legislative staff, at AC Transit to go pester Sacramento and to go pester the feds to go after, that level of money, because I think that, anything that we can pester MTC, other levels of government to give us the money so that we can support our staff for doing all that they could in the last 2 years.
Thank you. Anne?
I have to say I'm not sure about retroactive hazard pay being appropriate. I recognize that drivers are first line responders, and but I'm not sure that retroactive hazard pay is the way to go. I mean, I think it's more important to make sure that in the future drivers are protected and that they have reliable law enforcement, speedy and fast service when they need it. So again, post-pandemic is really planning for the next time. Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this one will go back to the 60 seconds.
I think we have one more person.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Barisha, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes, I support back hazard pay. They should have had it if they didn't have it already. I strongly believe in that. Supporting our AC Transit employees for all that they do. They work so hard every single day, and they should have it just like any other industry. And so I'm definitely for that. I would work for that.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you everybody for keeping me on track. So Barisha, I'm going to ask you to answer the first one coming up, and then Anne, and then Dave. And the question, 60 seconds, is what actions should AC Transit be taking to protect employees and riders from COVID? So Barisha?
Okay, okay. So first of all, of course, the free masks and the free antibacterial formula should remain free to workers and riders. Number one, that continues. Number two, they should, for their health, they should have, I know there's a system now, but there's a special system that AC Transit has on the bus that it should continue. It clears the air. It's a special process where it clears the air, and that should continue. And if possible, maybe some of those new filters that filter out any any of the COVID-19 in the air, so forth, so on. And also other measures as well that are appropriate, I would go for.
Okay. And Anne?
Okay, so yeah, it's a respiratory virus, so masks are the most important. And I feel safe when people are wearing masks around me. Cleaning, I'm not sure how often the buses are periodically wiped down. I agree with Barisha with the masks and the hand sanitizer. That's really important to have that available for people. And again, this is just, we're going into a climate crisis, environmental crisis. Pandemics are normal. We're going to see more of these viruses. So how we recover from this is really important for how we prepare for the future. So it's really important, and we have to look at it with what's going to happen next time. So we're not only dealing with now, but we're understanding that this is life. This is the way life is headed right now as we get denser populations, and it's just a normal progress of what's happening right now.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thanks. So Dave?
So I think what it comes down to is what can we do to help protect our drivers and our maintenance staff in both providing PPE, but continuing the standards that staff has continually have used in the last 2 years. I've used AC Transit basically throughout the pandemic, more or less from September 2020 onwards. They've done an amazing job. The other thing is like contactless payments. That was a major key even before the pandemic. When the app was released, but also doing the Clipper Card app, and I might harp on that later. Extending the mask mandate, or at least giving local jurisdictions the ability to make that call. As somebody who is immunocompromised himself, I do take that seriously as well. The maintenance standards are great, but also let's think about planning. Because what it did was that, yes, service was reduced, but everything seemed to be on time. Can we be able to do?
Speaking of time.
Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn my video off for this question. It's a little long. Let's see here. Excuse me just a minute. So do you support AC Transit moving to integrate fares, schedules, wayfinding, etc., with the other 26 agencies in the Bay Area? Do you believe this should be pursued even if it results in AC Transit not having as complete control over its own services as before? And for this, I'd like to go in the order of Anne, Barisha, and then Dave. So Anne?
Wow, what a question. So
I know.
Not having control is a big deal for me. I really believe in people who are being impacted having control over decisions that are being made. And that's a big problem we have in unincorporated county, is that other people are making our decisions for us. So I definitely think we need to have more integration and more technical connections. I've been experimenting with what is happening right now out there, seeing how far the technical abilities go, because I'm a techie kind of person. And I think there's definitely more that can be done, that's for sure. But I don't agree with giving up local control. So, period.
All right, okay, thank you. And Barisha?
Yes, I like the integration. I think that's going to be more effective and more convenient for the riders. That's what we're looking for, the convenience. For example, when I use Clipper Card, and of course Clipper Card is widely used on multiple transit agencies, and if we can make our system even more seamless, that is fabulous. We have to just make the system easier to encourage more ridership, to encourage people to get out of their cars, and to save our environment. It's an absolute must. And there may be ways where we can still have local control over it. That's something to be seen of, those technicalities, but I definitely believe in having the seamless service. Absolutely.
Okay, and
I'll just slide right in, Carol. You're all good. Thank you. So, short answer is that, the seamless initiatives that are going should not preclude how we approach local planning. When it comes to integration of fares and services, one of the big challenges is how do we get, like, for example, our students and those in housing to get, beyond just the realm of their local areas? Like, can we connect with BART in a way that removes the barriers to access, removes the fare qualities, the fare capping, or the fare integration would lead to better results because you remove those barriers. That being said, we also have to think of planning. Regional buses. We have not had the M line, which could have been a very critical aspect to get from, say, Castro Valley, Hayward, all the way to Hillsdale to actually connect to Caltrain. Like, all of these things, like, ideas should not come at a cost that, we remove the premonition that, we're going to lose our credibility or ability to actually plan out service, which I do not believe. I think that we need to make our entire network stronger and better by thinking regionally, but actually planning locally at the same time. So my answer is yes, let's do it.
terrific. Thank you very much. I want to thank all of you for your really thoughtful and complete answers. This has really been enlightening in so many ways. So for the closing statements, I'd like to go in the reverse order that we did on opening. Dave, and then Barisha, and then Ann. And that'll be 60 seconds.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for spending your Sunday afternoons and talking about transit, which is something that's been very personal and very worthwhile a profession to me. And I think that is, our communities, while we are underrepresented, it shows that just by talking and discussing with Barisha, and Ann, that, we have a lot of solutions to, improve, both service levels here, but to also make our buses a lot faster and to actually induce like multimodal commutes on, many of our routes that come in and out of our area, but to also think about regional travel. While not all of us are going into San Francisco, we do have to think about economic development, especially when it comes to housing. And until we have housing, our housing shortages improve, but also this climate emergency, we have to act immediately, and we have to act as progressively and as proactively as possible. And you're only as good as the board that you do have. So I do want to be able to make sure that I could be that person to lead. Thank you.
You're muted, Carol.
Hi, I'm so sorry, Barisha.
Yes, I want to thank everyone, all the organizers and all of the fellow candidates, and Dave for being here, and the viewers. It has been very informative, and I know that we need to transform our system to, have the AC transit and public transportation accessible to everyone. And we need more mixed use housing, affordable housing. We need it to go there. We need it to go to more jobs. We need to make it efficient for everyone that's using it, and to achieve our climate goals as well. And I am the person that is experienced enough. I've been in the community for 20 years at the local, regional, state, and federal levels. I have the experience, knowledge, and passion to.
Thank you. Thank you. And then Ann?
Ward 4 is different from the other AC transit wards. In looking at the numbers, I see that Ward 4 has the highest percentage of Native Americans, Hawaiians, other, 2 or more, and Hispanics. And this is what I keep telling these, jurisdictions and agencies, is that we have a lot of mixed populations here. So it's important to look at everything through an equity lens, and that includes an environmental justice lens. And this leads to why I think it's so important that AC Transit continues partnering with affordable housing developers, and not only puts development in transit-oriented areas, but makes sure that affordable housing developments are transit-oriented. We have examples where the developer doesn't even know where the bus stop is, or is building a development and not planning any shade. So I really think more partnerships with both environmental organizations, so that we're fighting the climate crisis. Buses, this is the point of buses.
Thank you, ma'am. That's fine.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Thanks so much for all the candidates who came out, and thanks so much to the members of the community who came out to watch. I think we got a good turnout today. I'm sorry we didn't get to all the audience questions. There were some really great questions. We tried to get through as much as we could. There were some that we pre-prepared that I really wished we could have gotten out and didn't. But we wanted to keep this to an hour because online meetings are better at not much more than an hour. So thanks again to the candidates. To the community, I want to let you know that if you want to follow this this vacancy appointment process as it continues, AC Transit is holding one meeting tomorrow, April 11th at, I believe, 4 p.m. and that it is public. It is the initial presentations. And then another, I believe on, I thought it was Friday the 15th, but now I'm not seeing it on the calendar. But there will be another meeting going into more detail and interviews on the candidates. And I will put up for everyone the link to the AC Transit agenda where you can see the Zoom logins and so forth for all the different meetings that are coming up. Let's see. I want to once again thank thank and name all of the co-sponsors to this event. Us, the East Bay Transit Riders Union. You can find more about us at ebtru.org. Seamless Bay Area at seamlessbayarea.org. Genesis at genesisca.org, and Transform at transformca.org. Let's see. I think, Dave, you asked if we could, if those who want to provide contact emails could do so. I think that you may have the ability to drop down to everyone in the chat and chat to everyone if you wish to provide an email to the community. Could you tell me if that works?
And also Adina has volunteered to send out a follow-up email.
Yeah, we
Yes.
can send a follow-up email with the contact information that the candidates provide, as well as the next steps in the process for people to be paying attention to the public meetings.
Yes. And once again, this same seat will be up for election no matter what this November. I think a lot of us will continue to be involved in what's going on there. I think that's it. Am I missing anything?
Nope. Thanks to everyone. And I'm going to close this meeting at this point.
Yeah. And I'll say one last thing. Thanks so much to Carol for moderating and Adina for timekeeping and all the collaborators for all the stuff you did leading up to this. And once again, thanks to the candidates for taking this time.
Thank you.